My dad was concerned that Evan seemed lost and unhappy, and even more concerned that he wasn't meeting any women. He's a fine young man. Your 20s are a time for screwing and so forth. He needs to meet some women, my dad told my mum after dinner one night while Evan was scraping buffalo sauce off of hot plates at Hooters. In an effort to liven up Evan's romantic life, my dad decided to step in. "I got a woman for you, big dude," my dad said to him one night after he came home from work. My dad calls Evan big dude because he's the tallest in the family. "I'm pretty busy, Dad," my brother responded. But my dad had already set up a blind date, and my brother, unlike myself, rarely puts up a fight. "You're going to like her," my dad said, and Evan nodded warily. I was shocked that Evan didn't ask our dad more about her, but that's not his style. Later, when I questioned him, he explained, "I sort of do what Dad says. You get mouthy with him, and then he yells at you. I always figured if you could stay the kid he yelled at, I wouldn't be that kid." So the next Sunday night, Evan asked to get off early from his dishwashing shift at Hooters. I was working in the front of the kitchen and spotted him on his way out. He was covered in dishwater and looked like he had fallen on a grenade filled with hot sauce and blue cheese dip. "Dude, you going on the date with Dad's lady?" "Yeah," he replied, half asleep. "I smell really gross. Should probably shower." And then he was off. When I got home from work a few hours later, I crawled out of my disgusting Hooters uniform and drove home shirtless in an effort to prevent my car from smelling like chicken and hot garbage. I jumped in the shower, and when I came out, found my dad sitting in his recliner in the living room sleeping. Then I heard the front door open and saw Evan walk into the hallway and tiptoe towards his bedroom like a cat in a cartoon trying to sneak past a sleeping dog. Unaware that he was trying to go to bed without talking to anyone, I immediately jumped in. "How was it, dude? Was she hot?" My dad snorted himself awake, and a look of fear shot over Evan's face. "Big dude, how'd it go?" my dad asked, closing his robe back up. "It was okay, but I'm tired," my brother said, trying to slip off to his room. "Bullshit. Get back in here and let me know how it went." Although Evan is quiet and demure most of the time, every once in a while he snaps. This was one of those times. "She's a resident in neurosurgery who used to be Miss Oklahoma or something," Evan screamed, his eyes suddenly venturing into angry crackhead territory. "I know. Good stuff, right?" my dad said, confused as to why Evan was upset. "No! I'm 28 and I live at home. I wash dishes at fucking Hooters." Evan rarely cursed, and never, ever cursed at my dad. I don't know if Dad was more angry or shocked, but he got stern real quick. "What is your fucking point?" "My point is, it was humiliating to sit there with some woman that's probably used to dating doctors and models and whatever the fuck else." Then came the line that sent my dad into a frenzy. "She's out of my league." My dad looked down at the floor and mumbled quietly to himself. "Out of your league." Over and over. Like he was Indiana Jones trying to figure out if what a weird travel person had told him right before he died was a clue. Then he exploded. "This is complete fucking bullshit," he screamed. At that point, I left the living room and tried to hide in the hallway so I could still listen. "Out of your league? What fucking league are you talking about? You are a man. She is a fucking woman. That is all that matters, god damn it." After that, I couldn't make out the yelling, but a few minutes later, Evan stormed past me. I peered into the living room and could see my dad felt bad about what had happened. Normally, after arguments, he wore a red-faced look of conviction that you see on world-famous leaders addressing a hostile United Nations. This time, he just looked sad. Nobody talked about what had happened those next few days. I figured the argument had passed. Then my dad came home from work about a week later and told Evan and me to get in the car, that we were going to dinner at Black Angus, which, in my opinion, was the Kansas City Royals of steakhouses. Yes, it technically qualifies as franchise, but it's not worth getting excited about. Black Angus? I replied, a little disappointed. Don't be an asshole, Dad said. We drove to Black Angus, where we sat down in the dark booth with cracked leather seats, and Dad ordered 3 porterhouse steaks, his favourite cut. I had no idea what my brother was thinking, but I was wondering why in the hell we were at Black Angus, given that this was not a holiday and there was no apparent cause for celebration. Generally, steak is eaten by my family only on special occasions. Dad exchanged a few pleasantries, asked us how we were doing, how our week was, and then, as the waitress set down our steaks in front of us, he said, "I want to tell you a story about the time I got mono from a stewardess." He dove into a long, convoluted story about meeting some stewardess, how they spent some time together, and what followed. I told everyone I got mono from the stewardess. You know why? Because I couldn't believe a woman that attractive would be with a guy like me. So much so that I was bragging about getting goddamn mono. Then I went into the hospital with fucking Guillain-Barré syndrome and it was a whole mess and I almost died. Anyway, my point is, it took me a long time to realize that I was worth a damn to women. You don't have to brag about getting mono. The 3 of us sat quietly for a moment before my dad called the waitress over to our table and said, "Let's see a dessert menu. I'm feeling frisky." Evan and I glanced at each other, unsure if we were supposed to comment on our dad's anecdote. "Gee, Dad, it's a great story," I said sarcastically. Evan started giggling, which sent me into a fit of laughter. My dad shook his head. "Well, you can both go fuck yourselves," he said, trying to impart some fucking wisdom about women. This only made the 2 of us laugh harder, to the point that Evan was almost unable to breathe, and nearby patrons looked sympathetically at my dad, pitying the man who had to suffer 2 such inconsiderate sons. But he just started chuckling as well. "As long as you 2 jerk-offs are happy, I guess that's all that matters," he said as the waitress returned with the dessert menu. "Cookies for you, on my fingers too. The man."